Stop picturing the giraffe in the window, that is a lie. The real story of Noah's Ark is a claustrophobic nightmare of logistics, toxic fumes, and absolute darkness. 8 people, 5,000 animals, 370 days. Do the math. That is 625 animals for every single human to feed, water and clean every single day without machines. If they stopped for 1 hour, the ammonia levels would turn lethal. This wasn't a miracle of magic, it was a miracle of sweat. Welcome to the toughest job in human history. To understand the horror, you have to look at the cold, hard math. The text says there were 8 humans: Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. 8 pairs of hands. Now consider the cargo. Even with a conservative estimate of 5,000 animals, focusing on kinds rather than every species, the ratio is terrifying. That is 625 animals for every single human being. Imagine waking up in the dark, knowing you alone are responsible for feeding, watering, and cleaning up after 600 creatures before you can sleep again. There were no weekends. There were no breaks. If you stopped, the system collapsed. A single cow produces nearly 30 kilograms of manure a day. An elephant produces 50. Multiply that by thousands. In a closed wooden structure, ammonia levels from urine become toxic within 48 hours. If the waste wasn't removed constantly, the methane buildup would suffocate everyone or cause a catastrophic explosion with a single spark from a lamp. How did they survive? They didn't just shovel, they engineered. Historians and naval architects suggest the Ark utilized a gravity-fed waste system where slatted floors allowed filth to drop into a lower moon pool or trough to be dumped into the ocean by the motion of the waves. But systems clog, straw mixes with dung, gutters block. Your day is spent ankle-deep in filth, using long poles to clear blockages while the ship lurches violently in 40-foot waves. You are not a captain, you are a janitor in hell. Then comes the feeding. You cannot grow food on the Ark. Every single calorie for 370 days, for both humans and beasts, had to be loaded beforehand. We are talking about hundreds of tons of grain, dried hay, and seeds. The labor of moving this food from the storage decks to the cages is backbreaking. There are no elevators. You are carrying heavy sacks up and down ladders, hour after hour, while the floor beneath you pitches and rolls. Motion sickness is a constant plague. The animals are panicked by the storm. The predators are restless. The noise is deafening. The sheer caloric requirement to keep 5,000 metabolisms functioning is a logistical nightmare that required perfect management of stocks. Water is another nightmare. You cannot drink the floodwater outside. It is a slurry of mud, debris, and dead bodies. The Ark relied on cisterns to catch rainwater from the roof system, but that water had to be distributed manually, 8 people carrying buckets to thousands of troughs. It is an endless loop of physical exhaustion. There is no sleep. The crew likely worked in shifts 24 hours a day just to keep the animals hydrated. If you stop working for 1 hour, the animals begin to die, and the disease spreads. Most people think the flood lasted 40 days. That is a misconception. It rained for 40 days. But they stayed inside that box for over a year, 370 days. Imagine the isolation. You know that outside those gopher wood walls, everything you ever knew is gone. Every city, every forest, every other human being, erased. You are floating over a dead planet. The mental strain of confinement, combined with physical exhaustion, pushes the mind to the brink of insanity. You are locked in a smelly, dark prison with no escape, no privacy, and no guarantee the waters will ever recede. The sound of the wood creaking under the pressure of the ocean is a constant reminder that death is just inches away. Security is another issue. The carnivores. They are in cages, but wood rots in the humidity. Latches break in the violent storm. The fear of a lion or bear breaking loose in the dark confines of the lower deck is a constant low-level terror. You carry a weapon not to fight an enemy from outside, but to maintain order inside. The ancient text mentions God remembered Noah. In the Hebrew context, this implies supernatural sustenance because physically, The human body should have collapsed from the toxicity and fatigue. Finally, the ship grounds on the mountains of Ararat. The sudden jolt of the keel hitting the earth. But you can't leave. The ground is still a swamp. You have to wait months more while the earth dries. The supplies are almost gone. You are skeletal, overworked, and traumatized. When the door finally opens, you don't run out cheering. You stumble out, blinded by a sun you haven't seen in a year. The air is fresh, but the silence of the new world is deafening. You survived the ultimate endurance test. You kept 5,000 heartbeats going when the rest of the world stopped. This was not a fairy tale, it was the toughest shift in history, and 8 people did the impossible.